Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Software Plaza podcast. It's great to have you with us, and we hope you've been enjoying the conversations that we've had over the past few years that we've been having this podcast, where we've been talking to different innovators, builders from the cloud native space, and talking about everything from security to observability, networking, storage. And today we're going to be talking about data and
Woo!
talking about uh, something that's really the foundation of everything that happens in the cloud. And we're going to be talking to Joe Carlson. He's the developer advocate, sorry, the senior developer advocate at
Thank you.
CloudQuery. Getting that title right.
That's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. So CloudQuery, as the name of the company and the product itself hints, they really have data in their focus, and it's really what they specialize at and what they're really excited about. And talking a bit to Joe, just preparing to this podcast, I can see that he's really excited about all things data, and he really
I
has
love
some
data. I love
perspective.
clouds. I love literal clouds, and I love clouds that live in data centers. They're both great.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and well, as we'll discuss soon, the data comes with a lot of gnarly problems when it's especially living in clouds in organizations, especially large ones.
Yep.
And that's what we want to be talking about today as well. So really looking forward to what Joe is going to be sharing with us today. So with that, Joe, let's get started with just getting to know you a bit. Tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and just your journey up to Cloud Query.
Yeah, I won't bore you with a long version of it, but yeah, I've been an engineer for a long time, been teaching, writing, talking, and making cringy online internet videos about software engineering and data engineering for a long time. Yeah, I've been lead engineer at some of the largest sites in the world. I've taught at some of the best boot camps on earth, and I've been a developer advocate at some of the biggest data companies out there. But yeah, I'm at CloudQuery, and yeah, we're doing tons of cool data stuff today, which is so fun.
Cool. Yeah, sounds like you'll be, the perfect guy to really break down some of these complex concepts that we deal
Sure.
with data. And so really looking forward to, just seeing that learning side of you come through in this conversation.
I'm
Um,
hoping to learn something from just me too. Maybe we'll figure it out together. Just chatting today.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So things are changing, in the industry when you look at data infrastructure,
Sure.
it's becoming more complex. There are new
Yeah.
challenges every day. We talk a lot about AI workloads these days, and
Yeah.
and from like a decade ago, I remember us saying, that there was this thing of big data that's now
Mm.
old. Uh,
Uh-huh.
the idea was just that each year we create just like exponentially more data than the previous year, pretty
Yep.
much. And like I don't know the exact number, but like in a few years, we pretty much like double the amount of data we have globally. So massive scale, lots of complexity. And organizations are having to deal with all of this, complexity, the scale,
Yep.
the costs that come with it, and then the security issues, the privacy concerns. There's just so much involved with when it comes to data.
Yeah.
So to kind of get us started, it'll be great if you can just talk to us a bit about some of the recent developments that you've been tracking in the past, let's say, year or two, maybe,
Yeah.
uh, in the space of data that probably top of mind when you speak to people out there working with data. What are they thinking about? What have you got your eyes on? What's happening in the
Mm.
data today?
Yeah, Twain, actually this morning I just saw data center construction is going to be outpacing new office construction in the US this year,
Wow.
which is crazy. I know. I think it's a mix of more remote work, but also just like the rise in data centers. I mean, also AI, I think is
Mhm.
driving a huge
Yeah,
amount of
yeah.
data center construction now. But it is an interesting inflection point for us today. Yeah,
Wow.
I think too. Like, I mean, obviously, there's been some massive changes in the data ecosystem in the last couple of years,
Mhm.
including like just massive fragmentation, which I think is honestly fine, right? Like
Mhm.
we have data stored everywhere, it's doing different things. But like one of the biggest mistakes I think that the I've seen from all the big players in like data movement ETL spaces is they're getting larger and more centralized and less privacy focused. You're having to make
Mhm.
concessions about hosting stuff in the cloud versus being able to run it locally or be able to store and like manage data on your own.
Yeah.
Um, and we've seen that there's a massive demand for being able to like handle and put data movement platforms in more places and be more
Mhm.
privacy conscious than some of the big players in the cloud ETL spaces. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just like
Mhm.
having that granular control and being able to process data where and when you need it, I think is becoming
Mhm.
more and more important as things get more and more fragmented.
All
You
right.
need the
All right.
data basically where you need it, and it can even become more
Mhm.
performant to have it close by. Yeah, composable,
Mhm.
lightweight, fast, and privacy focused is huge.
Mhm. Wow, interesting. So what do you think is driving this need for control? Is it more security, privacy, governance, that side of the challenge, or is it more the other side, which is, speed, user
Yeah,
experience,
yeah.
enabling
I think
capabilities?
well, we've seen a couple of one. What's driving it? I think mostly, honestly, regulations are driving it. EU's obviously putting a lot of data privacy regulations out there that if companies in the
Yeah.
US or wherever want to do business, they need to make sure that they're compliant with. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, obviously, I think regulation is honestly one of the biggest things that's driving this. And the other thing
Mhm.
too is new use cases are emerging for data movement platforms that could be embedded and put in other places. Like large uh, ETL platforms that are centralized are like Fivetran or the Airbytes. Uh, yeah, they're big and chunky and can get complicated quick. But for like smaller use cases, like for example, I recently worked with a company that was using CloudQuery for embedding CloudQuery into their GitHub DevOps pipeline so that they could go and sync their AWS cloud data to kind of determine if there was any drift or changes or to check if their latest build was compliant. So every single time they submitted a PR or a build, they were making sure that their cloud infrastructure hadn't drifted at all, right? Like, but that's a
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
case that wouldn't work if you weren't able to embed something within a pipeline or within a workflow, which you can do with lighter weight data processing platforms.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I'm wondering though, that use case, particularly if it's
Sure.
just for check diffs, I mean, doesn't like Argo, Argo CD,
Yeah.
some of the other CI/CD tools,
Yep.
have some of these capabilities to check for diffs and notify you if there are changes in production. Anything specific about this use case that they
Oh,
needed?
yeah, it's able to get different types of data that you wouldn't, because like you could do like YAML checks or whatever too, but like even checking things out of scope of what's being controlled with YAML files, metadata, permissions, things that aren't being managed directly with code or whatever, can be checked there too, or combining that other data. Like CloudQuery is a general purpose data movement platform. Like we can go get data from anywhere. If you want to go get like GitHub data from another repo or cloud config data from GCP, Azure, whatever. Like you can go get like multiple complicated data sources that we wouldn't normally be able to get in a platform on its own, and then
Right.
combine
Right.
that and transform that in new ways.
Okay. Okay. All right. Uh, so talk to us a bit about just this, some of the challenges around complexity.
Sure.
So, either like some use case, like you just gave us this example, or even something else, if they to implement, a very specific implementation,
Yeah.
uh, what's the kind of complexity challenges that typically these organizations are dealing with to kind of give us an idea of, just to make it a little more practical for us as we talk about complexity?
Sure. Yeah. I think there's four main categories here. The first is privacy exposure. I think Dealing with centralized tools, particularly in the cloud, the ones that you don't manage directly or expose to the internet, can have privacy issues.
Mhm.
The others are performance bottlenecks. If they're slow, that could get in the way of, obviously you want
Yeah.
you streaming data quickly.
Mhm.
Operational complexity in terms of being able to manage it. If you're managing like a Kubernetes cluster to manage your data processing pipeline, that can get complicated. And there's lots of rules and dependencies, and they can get out of hand pretty quickly. And then
Mhm.
the final one too is vendor lock-in and dependency too, which is always tricky, right? Being able to use open source tools that allow you to be flexible about where you're saving data, where you're moving, and make it easy to switch platforms. Like you don't want your tools to be dependent on a specific vendor. We're seeing people,
Yeah.
those are particularly big reasons for like concerns when you're managing ETL complexity or tools, the complexity of ETL, modern ETL tools. And I think most of them aren't really, you're making concessions in those places usually when you're picking out a tool.
Yeah, so those are like some four really big challenges in key areas that you called out there. Curious to kind of ask a bit more about this idea of just avoiding lock-in.
Sure.
And how portable should you expect your data to be? Like, what should you say, this is not working, or we shouldn't just adjust with this and work around this. We need to find a solution to be able to have our data portable across vendors or across tools. Give us some examples to talk about what
Yeah.
is should be the normal.
I think the answer is it depends.
Mm.
Obviously, there's like different use cases with what you're trying to do with when you're moving data around. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think the only constant in software engineering and data engineering is change. I think that being too beholden to a tool is dangerous in the long run. I think all of us see too, it's easy to get into a vendor and then
Yeah.
prices start to skyrocket pretty quickly, and it's
Mm.
you might want to look into that too. I mean, that's the
Mm.
reality of renting out hardware is and services
Yeah.
is like,
Things change.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, but it depends with your level of comfort with that, I think, and what you're doing with it. Um, but I don't know. As an engineer, I'm always looking for like open source solutions and ways I can have more control over that and things that can be more flexible and fit
Mhm.
like the unique use cases of whatever I'm trying to build it for. I'm looking for something to
Mhm.
be like extensible, flexible,
Mhm.
portable, and easy to move if I need to. Or if, like, and especially too, like for a tool like CloudQuery, we're a tool that moves data around, right? So I just want a tool that's gonna be able to connect to the different data sources I have. I need to be able to run it where I want to run it, and I want to make sure that how I'm running it is going to be respecting the privacy or any regulatory bodies that could potentially be affected by the data I'm processing with that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Are
which
there any particular like commonly seen cases where typically people want to move their data from here to there? Could you give us some of those most common examples that you see where people look to move their data from which tools or platforms
yeah,
or which?
honestly, I haven't seen. Okay, well, like recently, we've been seeing a lot of movement in kind of the AI space. I
Okay.
haven't seen like for Cloud Query, we handle such a broad swath of like different use cases for database migrations or
Hmm.
syncing up cloud data, or
Hmm.
just like being able to get ownership of data from cloud resources you manage, like
Hmm.
Sneak or IT ticketing systems or whatever, Wise, right, security auditing tools, and get that all in one place. Let's see. Use cases. Oh, with AI. Yeah, I am seeing like recently we've been seeing a lot of interest in trying to get data, like sensitive data,
Hmm.
into private AI systems to be able to like run
All
AI
right.
models and agentic models on those. Like converting it to vector databases and vector data, embedding that in RAG systems or feature stores, or being able to like connect your private sensitive, like no one wants to have their S3 bucket permission structure public. So making
Mhm.
sure that you can still like query that in a way that makes sense for like your team and your AI that isn't going to
Mhm.
like bleed out top secret privacy
Mhm.
information about how you built out your cloud. Just like the nature
Yeah.
of the data that we are really good at handling, which is cloud config
Mhm.
data,
Mhm.
is very sensitive to being leaked out. And like we're seeing a lot of people who are wanting to, like, there's a lot of interest in doing that, but trying
Mhm.
to figure out a way that isn't going to lead to a massive security breach in 6 months. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's where
Mhm.
we've been really, really, really shining.
All right, all right. Wow, that's a really great example, because that's really, top of mind for a lot of people today. Just being able to use AI in a secure way means you need to give it context,
Yeah,
and so you need to give it access to all of your internal data. But then that's a scary thing to do.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I do, like
It could-
your entire IAM permission metadata structure for AWS, like that's something you want to do. Or like if you have like your S3 metadata leak out and you find out like, hey, we accidentally leaked that we have, 50% of our S3 buckets are public, open to the public, and here's their IP addresses. Like that's something that needs to like remain locked down. But yeah, we're still seeing some interest in people wanting to use these agentic systems to manage their clouds and like get information and like be able to answer questions about their cloud easily. Which
yeah,
actually
yeah,
I would love to show you a little demo today of hooking up
yeah,
some AWS
absolutely.
data to an AI
Go ahead.
securely and then getting some basic insights from it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I would love to see that in just a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Uh, I want to talk a bit about the challenge of as well, data structure, data types, just managing volumes, compression, all of that. Um, even with the example of RAG and just,
Mm,
uh, having your own AI and LLM models and all of that. A lot of it comes down to just managing data the right way so that it's efficient, it's fast,
yeah.
it's you're kind of guiding those models across your data landscape.
Yeah.
uh, Talk about some of the challenges around that. Not just, we touched on the challenges of just access and privacy and all of that, but
Yeah.
kind of like looking to go a layer deeper than that and just talk
Yeah.
about, if, let's say we figured out the access, we kind of are okay with, yeah, okay, it's, we're fairly comfortable with the privacy, policies we've set in place and all of that.
Sure. Yep.
Uh, but operationally, we're talking about data structures and formats and all of that. Talk to us about that challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So CloudQuery is actually built on top of the open source project Apache Arrow. The cool thing about Apache Arrow is it allows you to like, it's a streaming data processing platform. So it doesn't like persistent memory. It just like moves it through, right? So and it's able to convert to any different data type as it's streaming through, right? So you can do, JSON data to a MongoDB document, or text file to Parquet or ClickHouse or whatever, right? Like we can move and
Mm-hmm.
persist data while
Mm-hmm.
streaming it through the
Mm-hmm.
platform, which is extremely performant and
Yes.
fast, and it's able to move that through. But yeah, so like that honestly, that's the easiest part with Cloud Query, is like how we're able to handle
Yeah.
converting different data types really
Wow.
easily.
All right.
And that's what makes it really great too. And like speed and performance too. Like I've been the two biggest things I play around with are what are people using, and then what are ways to like start getting the best possible performance out of this. Like persisting it in
Mm-hmm.
Parquet files in an S3 bucket, and then streaming that to a ClickHouse database. Like that's extremely fast. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or just like reading it through. But since it's local and streaming, it's extremely fast to be able to do that. I've actually, in my
Mm-hmm.
free time here, last couple of weeks, I've been working on some benchmarking, and we've had extremely promising benchmarks compared to other ETL platforms, some of the big players in the space, because of how compact and fast we are, and how we're built on top of Apache Arrow, and how that the architecture of that basically.
Really interesting. Wow. You should definitely show us in your demo some of these examples of just how you can transform data
Sure.
easily. And 'cause it seems like it's a complex challenge. And, it's interesting that you say that's one of the easy things to do with Cloud Query. So, uh,
Yeah, I know it's a nightmare in most other places, but if anyone's trying to do it, Apache Arrow is an incredible project for that.
mhm, mhm. All right, all right. Before we get into the demo,
Sure.
just a couple of questions. One is around, just the availability of data across different locations,
Sure.
geographically, and what that means for access. The speed of access, the
Yeah.
latency, that so that itself is a huge challenge, and a lot of times it's about just making sure that the data is closest to where it's needed most, and then how do
Totally.
you probably have subsets of the data in different places. How do you sync them as they change? A
Yeah.
whole bunch of a whole can of worms to open. Talk
Totally.
talk to us a bit about that. Just making sure that data is accessible at really
Hmm.
fast and really low latencies across wherever it's needed across the world.
Oh, totally. That's a great point. So, like, one one of the biggest challenges with any data movement platform is, especially if you're hitting like an API, oftentimes big cloud players put API rate limiting caps on your ability to query their data. That is honestly probably the biggest thing that slows down data processing platforms for any player in the space. It's a good thing. I mean, it makes oftentimes when I see people who are building their own DIY kind of data processors, they're just building out like a little cron job that goes and queries an API and gets data and loads that into like a CSV file or whatever. It's extremely easy to DDoS yourself in the cloud by just overtaxing API limits or bypassing them and kind of putting incredible strain on it. So like respecting API limits and still being able to like get a maximum amount of concurrency and usefulness out of that is extremely important too. CloudQuery handles all that too, and like maintainability for getting all the data, which is nice. So oftentimes why we see people come to us, they're building on their own, they realize it's a pain in the ass to like secure that, maintain that long term, and then they come to us to try to help them build that out. Let's see here, and you're asking about data movement. Yeah, so like speed and performance too. So APIs are one of the slowest things to be able to query for any data platform, especially if you're like respecting and don't want to DDoS yourself. But one of the nice things too that we talked about was the fastest data is the one that's closest to the data source, right? So you're not having to transfer it over the wire. If you could get data to run locally into the space that you need it, and then you can
Mhm.
run transformations or queries on that. For example, like a DevOps pipeline, or locally on a server, whatever, or even just centralizing it into your data warehouse if you do want to centralize that, right? The point is like whatever your infrastructure setup is, getting that data as close as possible to where that data processing is happening, it's going to increase the
Mhm.
performance. Also, if you can
Yeah.
get that data there before you need it, or that's also going to be extremely important too. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, those are the biggest things. So getting data where you need it as close as possible to the metal or the source that's doing the data transformation or consuming that
Mhm.
data, and then trying to figure out
Mhm.
what's the slowest data sources, which is oftentimes APIs, which are also
Mhm.
anecdotally the biggest pain in the butt to maintain because they're always changing and breaking and
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Uh, Wondering if you could also tell us a bit about just if you have multiple copies or subsets of data across different locations, just keeping them in sync, and you
Mm.
know, any challenges around those, and just do they come up? How do they come up, and what are some of the approaches to dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. We are just the like the data movement part of it. So
Yeah.
oftentimes, what we see people is using CloudQuery as like part of their solution for building that out.
Mhm.
So like yeah, for we just move data from point A to point B.
Mhm.
But oftentimes we're seeing people who have extremely unique use cases or infrastructure. They need to make custom
Mhm.
solutions for being able to sync the data where they need it to. And that's where CloudQuery comes in to like be a part of that extremely specific solution that they're building.
All right.
We're like an essential key part, but like a part of a larger solution that oftentimes people do that. But yeah, in terms of like syncing, we have a cloud platform we've been working on too that does have some like we had to solve some extremely complicated issues around data syncing, especially
Mhm.
right like if you're syncing into like a ClickHouse database and you're querying on that data while it's in flight, right? Like because sometimes syncs, especially if you're getting it from an API source, can take a couple of seconds because due to rate limiting or some other issues. Um, Yeah, you can be getting some weird results from that too. I wrote a blog post on our blog talking about how we solve some of those problems. It can get complicated, but putting blocks on it, waiting for it, and depending on where you're syncing it to, you're not always going to have those ACID guarantees. A lot of NoSQL databases don't have those guarantees that while you're doing a write to the database that you're going to be getting a accurate snapshot while things are in flight. And that's where it gets complicated. And because we support so many different data destinations, we aren't able to have those guarantees for every single database because they're all so unique. But we are, so it depends on where you're putting it and how you're building it and what the needs are for it. Is the long version of that.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, almost demo time. Before we get into it though, give us the elevator pitch. Tell us about why CloudQuery was built and kind of the approach it takes to just managing data.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think the most interesting thing is most people come to us because they are building out these things on their own. They're building out their own APIs to go query data from, their cloud platform, AWS, GCP, Azure, whatever, your Kubernetes platform, EC2, and trying to get that data locally to run some data processing, do some audits, understand their infrastructure or whatever. And after a couple months, an API changes, it breaks, they're not working, and they're looking for a tool that does that they don't have to maintain, so they can actually build stuff that really matters. But yeah, we came about as a way to be able to move and access your cloud data easily. But we accidentally end up building an ETL platform that's able to work on any platform. And that's where we've seen our use cases with our customers just slowly expand out. We can sync, if you need to sync data from A to B, we're an easy privacy-focused tool to do that. We have an open source core. And the other key part too is we have open source community plugins you can build. So if we don't support a plugin or a destination or a data source, it's extremely easy to build and add that to the community and grow that out and so we can connect to anything. We can connect to any source, to any destination, and sync that data wherever you need to go. It's been a journey too, because it's just been changing. The data space has been changing so much and so fast, which is kind of fun.
How many plugins approximately do you have in your community right now?
Good question. I think we're 50 or 60 plus right now. We're working on a bunch. I shouldn't be telling you this, but hopefully by the time this comes out, they'll be out. But we have some vector database endpoints that'll be coming out soon. Support some of those AI focused use cases as first class citizens with the platform.
All right. Wow. Happening as we speak.
As we speak, hopefully. I gotta go check in with the engineering team, but hopefully should be out soon.
Yeah, cool. So, really looking forward to the demo and just you showing us some of those things we just talked about, and some of the things around data transformation and how easy it is, and just managing privacy, and just making sure that you can move data to wherever you need it, so it's available really fast. Some of these key things that we discussed, and anything else that you had in mind that you'd like to show us in the demo as well.
All right, cool. Let's see here. I'm going to walk through how to install CloudQuery, initialize a new sync from AWS, so getting cloud config data. Particularly, we're going to be getting S3 bucket and S3 bucket metadata stored into a local Postgres database. And then we'll be we just released the CloudQuery MCP server. So we'll be hooking that up to Claude and then running some security analysis on the data that we synced into our database locally.
That's a pretty cool demo.
Let's see here. It's very fast too. Let's see here. So I have a little script here. Okay, so first thing, I'm running this on a Mac, so I'm just going to be doing a quick brew install on CloudQuery. We support Windows, Mac, whatever. Windows, Mac, Linux. It's a Go binary, so it can be run anywhere. I'm running a login online. You can't see this, but it just opened up a browser and I was able to authenticate successfully here too. For people who are running this locally or embedding it, you can use API keys or whatever to get this to log in. But been able, now I need to initialize CloudQuery. We have a nice little command. All you do is just run CloudQuery init, and then you put the source that you're going to be connecting it up to, which is AWS, and then connecting it up to Postgres. But you can connect it to any of your different data destinations or whatever. Cool. And that actually generates a little file for us automatically that connects that, which we'll be editing to configure what we want to be syncing from AWS and all the other things we want in there too. So, okay, so let's do that. I'm going to change it so that our AWS sync with CloudQuery syncs all our AWS S3 buckets. So let's see here. I'm going to pull this up here. This is actually what our our CloudQuery config file looks like. And we changed it so it's going to be syncing AWS S3 bucket. I can't remember how many different tables we host or we're able to sync from AWS, but let's go check it out real quick. This is our hub. And you can see all of our different tables and data that we're able to sync from AWS. I think we have like 300 to 400 different AWS resources, which is more than anyone else in the cloud space is able to sync. But yeah, we sync up lots of different cloud config data or database types, and we can move that into any data destination. Okay, cool. So got that. Great. We have our CloudQuery config file all set to go. Cool. Now let's run our, we're going to set up our Postgres database. I actually have a Docker Postgres database running over here, but you can run it anywhere. And now we're going to sync our AWS bucket over to Postgres on our Docker instance. And all you do is just run CloudQuery sync and then link to that file that we auto-generated. Boom, boom, boom. It's downloading the plugin from the cloud or from online locally if it doesn't, you don't have it locally yet. And now we're syncing our resources. Cool. This is small. We only have, I'm running a little demo environment. We only have 3 S3 buckets, it looks like, in this environment, but you can handle, again, we see people who are syncing millions to billions of rows, every single day with their different cloud configs using CloudQuery. Okay, so oftentimes we see people syncing this kind of data to be able to do some basic analysis on that. So we're going to be just using, because it's in Postgres, we could just use SQL to run some basic analysis on that. So listing out the first 10 S3 buckets that are stored in our Postgres database from AWS. You can see we only sunk the three resources, but you can see those 3 resources here too. They're all just test files, but just making sure we're got the data synced in correctly. And let's see here. Let's see all of the buckets are created in the last, I think, what does that say, 30 days? Yeah, in the last 30 days. We're just going to run a basic SQL query. Honestly, this stuff's really easy to put together too with AI too, if you don't know AI or don't know SQL, but we're SQL pretty ubiquitous here too. Okay, so we have a couple use cases. I have a couple more here. It's fun. I think the power here, which we weren't able to show too, is like combining this with other data sources. So like being able to run analysis on, GCP, Azure, be able to get all your different blob or bucket storage in the cloud and be able to see them and audit them all in one place. Oftentimes tools that do this are fragmented all over the place or specific to a single cloud. This allows you to actually have control of the data, be able to run and process that locally, and then combine and hydrate that with other data sources, which you can't do unless you're able to sync that data and get fresh instances of like what your cloud data looks like as you sync it down. Okay, cool. So let's see here. Can I make this bigger? Great. I previewed this a little bit earlier, but we built an MCP server that allows you to query your CloudQuery data using AI. I'm working on integrating it into some agentic pipelines and building out some kind of vector database stuff and converting that and be able to use that more natively. But I think this is kind of a fun way. We're seeing a lot of people use this too to just get some high-level questions about their cloud. But you can ask it to do things like, can you run a security analysis on my S3 AWS buckets using CloudQuery data. And it'll use the CloudQuery MCP server to start analyzing your cloud config data, which is super nice. I think that the hard part too is like we have like questions about our cloud, we need to answer them, we need to audit them. And especially if you don't know SQL or understand that, agentic or AI pipelines can be extremely useful for like auto-generating, finding out what data is available and then generating queries using the data that you have at your cloud immediately and try to figure that out. So we're getting all that schema data, finding it out, and then it starts putting together SQL queries for us to put together and actually analyze our security or our data easily.
Okay. So how does Claude get access? Is it through the plugins or one of the plugins on your community, or is it?
Good question. It is let's see here, MCP release. We actually have a official MCP server release for CloudQuery. So it's actually a Go binary that runs locally on my computer. So I have it running in the root. It's just a MCP server that runs kind of in the background, but I'm giving it the connection string to my Postgres database here. So I'm telling it, hey, this is where the CloudQuery is. And then the MCP server is walking through and telling it how to actually interact with that. Kind of gives the rules, steps for analyzing it, how to use it, and like tips for like not blowing through all the available tokens just with like raw schema data or raw data. But yeah, it's a MCP server that runs locally that you can connect up to it.
Yeah,
which is nice.
So you have more control that way as well. It's more secure.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing too. So like Claude, I love because it's like you can set it so it doesn't track any of your stuff or bleed that out and do training data on that. But things we're seeing too for more privacy focused users is like running their own Olama server, and Olama supports MCP by default. So running privacy focused agentic pipelines fed with data from CloudQuery to answer questions about sensitive cloud data. Being able to like lock down and control that data is a really great way to like make accessibility into your cloud space a lot easier while still like not having to worry about things bleeding out sideways and getting out. And here we go. Yeah, we got a little security report on here too. And you can see here too, we have a intentionally public S3 bucket, but luckily our security audit was able to let us know that we do have one, and that could be a big issue, right? If you didn't know that was happening. And we have some other metadata associated with our S3 buckets that might be dangerously bleeding out or exposing our data that we may not want. And this is we just sunk this 3 little tables of metadata from our S3 bucket using CloudQuery. But again, we have companies that are using millions of data points about their cloud and able to analyze that easily and do more comprehensive. Because that's the thing too, we're fragmented. We have data everywhere. We have things managed in the cloud everywhere. If we can get all that cloud config data into one place and mixed with other types of data, it makes it extremely easy to analyze it.
Yeah, it's really powerful stuff. I mean, with AI, being able to integrate AI into this workflow, and it gives us so much detail. Just to do this manually, it would take so long, and it's just.
It really does. I agree. I've been using this stuff for a long time now, and I'm still finding new ways to like. Here's the other thing too. I recently wrote about this on our blog too. Having access to your cloud config data has actually made Claude or Cursor more useful for me too. Oftentimes, like, because I think tools like Cursor, which are like analyzing your code base, the thing that they don't know is what's going on in your database. CloudQuery makes it easy to like see the actual data and like write queries on your data, which has been like an absolute game changer for us and something we didn't actually discover until after we built it, and we found it extremely useful. But like, it's just AI doesn't see your database, and we're the tool you can use to get data from your database into Cursor to better understand your code, right? Is right now it's we're seeing Cursor do things like hallucinate what your data looks like, what data stored in your database, but we give your schema, what data is actually in there, and allow it, give it tools to actually interact with the data in there. Which we have found to be extremely powerful for us. We've been even using it for troubleshooting our own hardware, our own infrastructure, and our own databases while developing the MCP server, which we thought was pretty cool. Yeah, just no one's doing that yet.
Really exciting stuff. I think it really takes the pain out of just managing data management and governance and all of that. If you
Yeah,
can do it this way, so
yeah,
it's really really innovative.
and just like giving your AI access to more information. It's just like it can see what it can
Mm,
see, and we're the tool now that's emerging as like the
yeah.
easiest way for AI LLM code bases to interact with that data. Anyway, which I think is
Yeah.
cool. I've been extremely impressed with.
Mm. Yeah, that's what it's all about now, about just getting your AI to just have deeper access and in a safe, controlled
Safe.
environment.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
just giving it really good data to work with, so it can give you back good output.
That's
So
the thing too. It's like because like we're seeing these hallucinations, getting like fresh, great data that actually is useful, and like because a lot of I'm sure you've seen this too, Twain, where it's like it's it's hard to trust the AI output, but if giving it like fresh, up to date data makes it a lot easier to trust that and check,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
which is useful.
absolutely. And so, this is enabled with your most recent release.
Yes.
Uh, Anything else that you'd like to call out from that recent release that we might not have touched on already?
No, we've talked about extensible, like building your own plugins. We talked about the privacy focus. We talked about how fast it was. And we talked about our MCP server. I've also talked about stuff that I probably shouldn't talk about with stuff that's coming out in the near future with vector-based databases. Yeah, so like supporting additional endpoints too. But yeah, no, I think that about sums up our where we're at for the latest release with CloudQuery.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So yeah, just winding down,
Sure.
uh, really fascinating conversation there with
Yeah.
whirlwind conversation about just different data and AI and just so many aspects of all of that. But you really brought it down well to, just a really exciting demo that showed us, something that I think it just showed what's possible, and you
Sure.
really scratched the surface in that demo.
Yeah.
And, hopefully anyone who's watching, uh, you know, they're getting a lot of ideas about things they can do if they can actually, make like a secure connection
Yeah.
between the model and their, data pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
Something you showed, the possibilities and the potentials. Hopefully, they're getting a lot of ideas there, but really, really exciting stuff. Really,
That I thank you for saying that. I totally agree with you. I think we crush with syncing in cloud data, but I feel like the use cases, especially around AI, for like syncing and accessing and be able to like integrate more of that data, we're still like the community is still trying to figure that out. I think as developers as a whole, we're all trying to figure it out. I don't want to
Mhm.
stifle anyone's. I want to give some like practical starting points without
Mhm.
limiting what is possible, being able to move data privately where you need it and to be able to use it securely and safely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a tight line. You don't want to talk in like vague marketing speak about potential ideas, but there's so many things you can do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you look ahead the next year or so,
Yeah.
uh, what's most exciting? You kind of showed us already, and this latest release,
Yeah.
MCP server, so much that's happening right now itself.
Yes.
Anything like that, exciting stuff that you have your eyes set on in the next year or so, either for CloudQuery or just where you see the space going,
Industry.
what you're
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. We don't know. I think things are up in the air. Obviously, AI is huge. Who knows how big or small it's going to be? All I know is like right now, I don't even think, I think a lot of people, as of the time of recording this, are still evaluating, especially for large companies who are under massive regulation or privacy focus, are still trying to figure out like how AI fits into that pipeline, and they don't know. But I feel like a lot of people are in the evaluation phase where we speak. and trying to figure out what that looks like. I think we're still like, as an industry, we're in that hype cycle where we don't know kind of where the actual usefulness of that will be and I think we're still getting a lot of hype versus what's real. I think that will even out in 2 years ish, hopefully, and we'll like be able to find a productive place for that. But even being in the midst of it, it is still an exciting time to be in the data space. Like, I think data engineers, data movement is extremely important for AI. Normal, day-to-day
Yeah.
compliance and checking and being able to like have data locally and get it there safely without bleeding out data or making a security nightmare for yourself. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting time. It feels like we're getting like a new bag of toys to play with again, which is it's been personally fun for me.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
anyway, who knows?
yeah, so much is changing, and it's definitely early days in AI. And I think even we'd reached kind of a level of maturity with just the way we handle cloud data.
Yeah,
And of course, there are some challenges around that, that not that it's solved, but
totally.
I think, like you said, AI is kind of like a new frontier and just brings up a lot of possibilities, a lot of new challenges, and it's an exciting time to be in this space, and especially data being the foundation of it all.
Yeah.
I can imagine you're kind of getting a front seat row, to witness all of this transformation that's happening. So
We
really
all
cool.
are. We're all in the front seat of the car, hurtling down the freeway right now of tech
Yeah,
and life.
yeah, we're figuring it out as we go. And
Exactly. Yeah.
do come by again when you release anything big that you'd
Okay.
like to talk. We'd love to have you over, to just understand what this all means for us, AI and data, and just how to
Sure.
make them with.
No, absolutely. I'd love to come back. It was a blast chatting with you today.
All right. Before you go, Joe, just a question to get to know you a bit. What would be your alternate career path if not for your job in tech?
Twain, if this computer thing doesn't work out for me, I'm picking a job that can't be outsourced.
Mhm.
I'd be a barber. I would start cutting hair.
Oh,
You
okay. All right.
can't, that's not going anywhere. People's hair never stops growing no matter what. Uh, I'm,
Yeah.
I feel like every tech person dreams of throwing their laptop in the garbage and never looking at a screen ever again in their life, becoming a farmer or something. But I don't know.
Mm.
I would yearn for a barber shop, I think, and just doing something with my hands. What
Yeah,
would
yeah,
you do?
absolutely.
What would you do?
Me, I'd probably play music. I'd probably write songs. I play some bass.
Oh, sick. Actually, I used to play some bass. I was just talking about this last weekend. I recently sold it because I wasn't playing as much as I wanted to, but
Oh,
I can take that
okay.
thing for a walk all day long. You know what I mean? I can I I love it so
Yeah.
much. I'm jealous. Good for
Yeah,
you,
that.
man.
But yeah, let's hope robots don't start playing music and
Yeah,
cutting hair and stuff.
I am with you. I'm with you 100%.
Right. Cool. That was a lot of fun, Joe. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you'll come back again and talk about what's happening at CloudQuery, what's happening with you, what's happening in the AI and the data space. Maybe in a couple of
Absolutely.
months.
If anyone wants to learn more, be sure to check out cloudquery.io and we got all our tools, use cases, examples, demos, tutorials, community, whatever you need. We'd love to chat with you. But yeah, thanks for having me, Twain. This has been a blast.
All right. Great. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And do tune in for the next episode where we'll be talking about something similar, and we keep the conversation going. Thanks, then. We'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.